The 1997 Molson Indy Vancouver was the 15th round of the 1997 kart season. The race took place on August 31st, 1997 on a street course around BC Place in downtown Vancouver, BC, and it was also the last race on its original layout since its inception in 1990. This would also be the home race for Greg Moore, and it was one of two Canadian races on the kart season calendar that year, the other being Toronto. Chip Ganassi Racing's Alex Zanardi was definitely the fastest and favorite going in. He was also the points leader, but the show was stolen by a journeyman driver that got his one and only IndyCar win. Alex Zanardi was on pole with Bobby Rahal alongside him on the front row to lead the field to green.
The cars are side by side in the streets of Vancouver, British Columbia, and we are ready to go racing in round 15 of the PPG Kart World Series. Pole sitter Alex Zanardi with a shot at the PPG Cup if he can win, leads the field around. The safety car is off, and we are about to go green. Jim Swinton waves the flag, and away we go. Zanardi, Rahal, Vassar, and Michael Andretti, the first four into turn one. Greg Moore making a move alongside Mark Blundell. Heavy braking coming up for turn three, the slowest turn on the racetrack. From high overhead, it looks much like the streets of Long Beach, California we visited much earlier this year in round four. Field going slowly, but it looks fairly
there
clean.
Was a little bit of an incident back there. It looked like somebody came out of the corner, missed their gear. I couldn't tell if it was Paul Tracy or Alan Jr. It looks like
That's Dennis
bumped
Vitolo
back there, dived out, touched another car. That's Dennis Vitolo. He's had a lot of trouble down in that corner all weekend long. I think he's got a special pass in that runoff area.
A toll booth down there would have earned a lot of money this weekend. Everybody's been taking to the escape road. Through the shadows of BC Place, down to turn 10. Oh, Paul Tracy, the right front wheel destroyed.
I think that happened when he came out of that corner. He had to move out. A car slowed in front of him. He had to move over. I couldn't tell who it was.
Let's take another look. Coming out of the chicane.
See, he's already damaged the wheel down there. That's after the hairpin. I'm sure that's when he moved over on that slower car coming out of this hairpin you see right here.
Paul Tracy's day would come to an early end. He made contact coming out of that hairpin with Raul Boesel. Although the camera did not catch it, Tracy describes what happened in his interview, where he said his car actually launched up on two wheels and his head almost hit the wall.
We got beside Boesel and just kind of ran out of room, and he moved over, and we hit, and I went up on two wheels, almost flipped over again like last week, and my helmet almost scraped the wall. I was up on my side,
which is definitely pretty wild. But besides that, a surprisingly clean first lap of the race as you see how stacked up they got going into that hairpin. Some drivers towards the back were literally going so slow that it was possible to stall the car in the turn, and that's exactly what happened to Dennis Vitolo. But not too long after this, the first full course caution of the race would come out. And speaking of Dennis Vitolo, it was him that put his car into the tire barrier, which created the first full course caution of the day. Alex Zanardi would lead the field back to green after only 4 laps of caution, but there would be some trouble before the entire field even made it back to the start-finish line.
Now Zanardi hoping to get a jump on the field, gets into the power. Hold a little speed through turn 10 and then sweep onto the start finish straight away, looking for the green flag. Bobby Rahal second, Jimmy Vassar in third. And Michel Jourdain is sideways down in turn 10. A local yellow is all for the moment. The green flag is still waving from the flag stand.
The car did not look damaged down there. It looks like he just looped it. Of course, he's going fairly slow. See Michael trying to control that coming out of there. The tires are a little cold, jumping around a little sideways as he tries to put the power down.
Under the shadows of BC Place, home of the CFL British Columbia Lions, there is Jourdain, who had a strong qualifying performance.
Now everybody, you can see the car jumping around on that. Every time you see a car going over a bump, oh, he tried to, little Al and him got tangled together.
Al Unser Jr. and Michel Jourdain making it 3 wide down there in the entry to 10.
Michel Jourdain got spun around by Al Unser Jr. there with a little contact, but there was no real damage and he was able to continue on. This would also kick off the longest green flag run of the race, which was 41 laps. By lap 16, Alex Zanardi stretched out his lead to a pretty good margin, and the battle was heating up for second place as Bobby Rahal was trying to hold off Jimmy Vasser. But unfortunately for Zanardi, he would miss the hairpin and go off. He would use the access road to get back to the track, but unfortunately he would have to stop and let the traffic go through, and in doing so he would stall his car, losing several positions, but they would get that car refired and he would rejoin the race.
Let's take another look, going down into 3.
Just gets in there a little bit late, locks up that right front, makes a smart decision. Look, I can go up the escape road, hopefully won't lose too much ground. That was a mistake. But if he had tried to turn in there, he would have taken a chance smacking the wall.
On lap 21, PJ Jones would retire from the race due to an engine failure, and I honestly have no idea how this was not a full course caution, judging by where he was located. He was by an exit there, but that is clearly a pretty high speed part of the track, and PJ took it upon himself to grab a fire extinguisher and try to put out the flames under the rear cover of his car. A few laps later on lap 26, Jimmy Vasser would finally be able to make the move on Bobby Rahal and take the lead of the race. But that would be the least of Bobby Rahal's worries, as only 9 laps later he would retire from the race with transmission issues. On lap 47, while the broadcast was away at a commercial break, the second full course caution of the race would come out when Richie Hearn and Michel Jourdain Jr. made contact. The broadcast would come back, immediately show a quick replay, and the green flag would be right back out.
The yellow flag came out when Richie Hearn was unceremoniously driven off the racetrack by Michel Jourdain Jr. Both drivers are now out of the race, and we have just gone back to green. Jimmy Vasser up front, but this yellow flag helps a couple of drivers back in the field, notably Al Unser Jr. and Alex Zanardi.
And it didn't exactly hurt Big Mo and Michael Andretti right there, because it bunched him up to Jimmy Vasser, closed that gap up.
That was not a pass for position. Parker Johnstone runs in 15th place, a lap down. The order is Vasser, Gugelmin, Andretti, DeFerrin, Moore, Pruitt, Blundell, Herta, Fittipaldi, and in 10th place, Alex Zanardi, the points leader and pole sitter coming into this race. He went off the track at the end of the front straightaway, came back on in 23rd, and there he is right there, working his way up. Oh, and one of the Brahma cars is into the wall. I believe that's Scott Pruitt is into the tires in the chicane. Yes, it's Pruitt. Left rear tire is down.
Yes, I think he got punted from behind, probably flattened that tire, sent him sideways. And look at that, Christian Fittipaldi just hit Brian Herta. And right there on top was, it looked like Mark Blundell got a little bit up in the air as well.
That was in turn 10. You ride with Christian Fittipaldi. No sign of yellow flags. There's Jimmy Vasser, the leader. Maurício Gugelmin second. And Michael Andretti in third.
A pretty chaotic restart there as Adrian Fernandez and Scott Pruitt made contact, putting Scott Pruitt into the tire barrier in the chicane in a pretty spectacular way. We'll see the replay here in a minute, as well as Brian Herta getting turned around by Christian Fittipaldi. In terms of that incident, all drivers would easily continue. It was pretty minor, but due to the location of Scott Pruitt's car, the full course caution would come out once again, and that was kind of obvious.
Welcome back to Concord Pacific Place in Vancouver, British Columbia. About to come off our third full course caution of the day after the most phenomenal tangle between Scott Pruitt and Adrian Fernandez. Look at the lower part of your screen as Pruitt's car goes up and over the roll bar of Adrian Fernandez's car. Alex Zanardi took advantage to pick up a couple of positions. Brian Herta, one of 2 cars that made a quick pit stop under the yellow, and we are ready to go green once again. Jimmy Vasser leads Maurício Gugelmin, Michael Andretti, Gilles DeFerrin, Greg Moore, and Alex Zanardi, who was once 23rd in this field. He is now up to 6th as he pursues the PPG Cup and a $1 million bonus today.
And Bob, it's interesting because there are still problems for Zanardi. On an intermittent basis, he's experiencing what the drivers call a long pedal. You go to put that brake down and nothing happens initially. But as I say, it's on an intermittent basis. They're very concerned, but hey, right now everything's going his way. He's up to 6th.
Alex Zanardi was on a tear through the field as his pace was pretty much unmatched. He was just kind of buried in traffic, but he was working his way up through the field rather quickly. If he never made that mistake in the hairpin, he would probably have this race easily wrapped up, as he would make his move on Greg Moore to take the 5th spot going into the hairpin, which is definitely one of Alex Zanardi's prime passing spots, as you'll see here in a minute. A few laps after this pass, Greg Moore would unfortunately retire due to suspension damage after contact with the wall. Zanardi's charge to the front of the field continued, as like I said earlier, that hairpin was his favorite spot to pass, as he would make the move on his championship rival Gilles Defer in there, and would get the 3rd spot away from Michael Andretti with a pretty ballsy move going into that hairpin as well.
We'll go back and take a look.
Look. There's Alex Zanardi going down the inside of Gilles Defer, and seems to be his favorite passing spot. He really gets in there deep. See him in the back of your screen, right up in here. He made a very clean pass there.
Squirming slightly under braking as he turns in.
I'm a little bit surprised. He must surprise those guys. They must think he's not going to pass him, because that's one of the key passing spots around this track.
Get the feeling that he's starting to chomp the bit, and the crew now has given him the green light to go up one on boost. That tells me that he may be charging even harder now.
He is charging harder. He has just gone down the inside of Michael Andretti in turn 3 for 3rd place. Alex Zanardi is just working this traffic, and now runs in 3rd.
Unfortunately for Michael Andretti, he too would retire shortly after Zanardi passed him with suspension damage. As he pulled his car into the pits, the team would look at it, but he would be done for the day. Zanardi would continue that charge forward and would make the move to take 2nd place. If you guessed the hairpin, you would be right. He would make another ballsy move there to pass Maurício Gugelmin to take the 2nd spot.
Here is Jimmy Vasser, Maurício Gugelmin, and here comes Alex Zanardi down the inside, going for 2nd. A look at the fuel
And
window.
Big Mo's going to go back up the inside. Is it going to be enough? Alex got in there awful deep.
But as you see there, Maurício Gugelmin was able to do what those other drivers were not able to do, fight back on the exit and take his spot back. Zanardi did get really deep into that turn and compromised his exit, but it was some damn good racing. As you can see here, Michael Andretti climbing out of his car to officially retire from the race.
All right, and look at this. Alex Zanardi gone in deep again. Maybe he is having braking problems. He went in there very deep, lost a lot of ground.
He didn't want another taste of that escape road. Watch the field go by.
Right, and that escape road's not so good over there. You can't just do a U-turn and come back out the other end.
Once again, Alex Zanardi would outbrake himself as he was kind of having brake troubles. It was mentioned earlier in the broadcast that his brake pedal felt kind of long, and he was definitely struggling with that, and it was definitely his Achilles heel on the day because he was super fast. On lap 73, with just over 25 laps to go, Jimmy Vasser, the leader of the race, who's pretty much controlled this race since taking the lead from Bobby Rahal back on lap 16, is making his final pit stop to try to make it to the end. The tire change was quick, but they had to make sure that they filled this car up with fuel, and it took a very long time. And unfortunately, Jimmy Vasser would not return to the lead from this point, because on the very next lap, Maurício Gugelmin and his teammate Alex Zanardi would hit pit road. And Gugelmin, who was right on Jimmy Vasser's tail pretty much the whole time, was able to get out of the pits in front of Jimmy Vasser.
25 laps remain in the race. Maurício Gugelmin out first. Once again, the Ganassi team keeping their man in for a long time. Now Zanardi is back out as well. That is Jimmy Vasser slewing into view behind Maurício Gugelmin.
With 18 laps to go, Brian Herta was in the lead of the race, but he was on an alternate strategy that would not allow him to make it to the end on fuel. And unfortunately, once again, Alex Zanardi would find himself in trouble, stalling the car in turn 3, the hairpin, once again.
Oh, and Alex Zanardi is in the runoff again, down in turn 3.
But he stalled. That's why he cannot go forward there. He has stalled the car. That's why he's signaling everybody, push me, push me, push me. Please, I've got to get going. Please, look, he's begging there.
So much for giving orders, now we're praying.
But, you know, that's a very difficult spot for the workers to come out because they're in the braking zone. If somebody locks them up, they're in danger. Look at Chip going, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
His team won the title last year with Jimmy Vasser, going for 2 in a row. No team has done that since Penske Racing did it with 2 different drivers back in the early 80s. Now Alex Zanardi has the engine running again, but he's going to have to wait.
But there was Big Mo. He's in second spot, but when Brian Herta pits, he'll probably take the lead there. That means he's a lap behind the leader.
With 17 laps remaining.
Unfortunately for Zanardi, this time he would lose a lap, but if I told you that he would be down and out after this, not Alex Zanardi, and I won't spoil it for the end where he ends up finishing. A couple laps later, Maurício Gugelmin was right on Brian Herta's tail trying to take the lead of the race, but Alex Zanardi would make the move on Gugelmin coming out of the final turn to get one step closer to unlapping himself. The next lap, Zanardi would make an attempt to unlap himself on Brian Herta, and he would get by, although it might be very controversial.
I think he touched with Brian Herta.
Oh, from our Honda Helicam, you saw the both cars were balked slightly. Oh, Herta touches him, and the race leader is in the tires.
And I can't believe it. Zanardi wanted that lap back, just dove up the inside, banged Brian and pushed him right off into the wall.
I believe Alex Zanardi might be in for some criticism after this race. We have a full course caution. Brian Herta, who lost his race lead at Mid-Ohio earlier this year when a tire went down. The man who passed him and took the win was Alex Zanardi. They were bottled up behind a slower car in the hairpin. Then they got to this corner. Zanardi forced the issue up the inside, fully alongside Brian Herta, it must be said, and then they touched wheels.
But Brian's already turning into the corner right here. Brian's in there. He's not seen him, bangs him. Zanardi once again escapes, but I've really got to say that's Zanardi's fault there. He was way down on the lead. That was the leader of the race.
Another look from overhead. I can't believe Zanardi's car wasn't damaged in that collision.
I can't either. Once again, just like in Australia when he banged with wheels with Paul Tracy, he comes away unscathed, and Brian Herta is in the fence. I really got to believe that that is Zanardi's over-enthusiasm for the mistakes that were made during this caused that accident.
Well, you gotta let me know in the comments how you feel about that one. I mean, Alex Zanardi was there, but then again, Brian Herta is the leader of the race, and you gotta show a little more respect than that. So not only did Alex Zanardi get his lap back there, it also caused a full course caution, so he would be able to go around and catch back up with the rest of the field, which was definitely a game changer for him. This would put Maurício Gugelmin into the lead of the race, a guy who's never won an IndyCar race, and he would definitely have his work cut out for him to try to hold off Jimmy Vasser. Brian Herta was also able to continue on after this. They pulled his car out and he was able to continue, and he would finish in the 8th spot on the lead lap.
And the green flag waves once again. Maurício Gugelmin now in the lead. Jimmy Vasser second. Gilles Deferin third. Al Unser Jr. in fourth, right there behind Juan Fangio. Raul Boesel runs fifth. Dario Franchitti sixth. High above, turn 3, the hairpin. There's Al Unser Jr. in red and white, following the green and white car of Fangio. And Boesel,
oh, look at that.
Ooh, Mark Blundell in the blue and white car, and Alex Zanardi flashing through the field.
He is on a tear. He has certainly given us some excitement all day. I'm not so sure the other drivers will agree with what he's done, but he has been fast.
Boy, look at the lead that Maurício Gugelmin has been able to pull out over Vasser and Deferin.
And once again, Alex Zanardi making it exciting, taking no prisoners on that restart, charging his way through the field, and he would continue to do that all the way up until the checkered flag. As the race was winding down, Maurício Gugelmin's in place to win his first ever IndyCar race, but the camera would not leave Alex Zanardi as he continued to charge through the field, making pass after pass, making it exciting. And this probably has to go down as one of his most exciting races ever, despite him not even winning it. After Zanardi made that pass on Al Unser Jr., he would be in the 4th spot, and that's where he would end up finishing, scoring a top 5. After all that he's been through during this race is pretty wild and pretty remarkable, and despite some controversy crazy. Definitely one of his craziest performances. Things would get a little interesting with 4 laps to go when Dario Franchitti would put his car into the tire wall, but this would not end up affecting the outcome of the race, and there would be no full course yellow due to this. With a healthy lead and coming to the white flag, Maurício Gugelmin looks to seal the deal and score his first ever kart win of his career.
I got to tell you, the feeling that he's got right now when he sees that white flag, his first win coming, 1 lap to go is, oh, don't make a mistake, don't have anything go wrong. Please, nothing break. He's listening to every noise in that car. He'll brake early, conservative, be really steady on his shifts, stay away from those walls.
It has been so competitive in the PPG Kart World Series this year. Maurício Gugelmin could become our 3rd first-time winner this year. The man from Joinville, Brazil, now living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with his wife and children.
I'd like to have a heart monitor on there because either it's not ticking at all or it's going about 1,000 beats a minute.
He could become the 36th driver to win a PPG Kart World Series event. Bruce McCaw looking on with his team. McCaw has built this team up to become one of the front-running outfits in the series, and they prove it again today. Checkered flag for first-time winner Maurício Gugelmin. 3rd victory for the Pac West team this year, all of them on road courses, Portland, Toronto, and Vancouver. The 8th win for a Mercedes engine, the 11th for Firestone tires, 9th in a row for the Firestone brand. Christian Fittipaldi has crashed out in turn 10, gets out of his car with cars coming on at top speed under braking. Man,
that's not the way you want to jump out right there on the last lap.
Especially with a brace on your leg as he continues to heal from that broken leg in Australia earlier. Let's take a look.
3 cars in there, they all bunched up. We saw this earlier with Richie Hearn.
A Brazilian triumvirate, Ribeiro, Boisel, and Fittipaldi. Christian getting the worst of it.
And what happens is it just gets an accordion effect, and Christian has to stand on it, turns it sideways.
That was definitely a wild last lap for Brazilian drivers. 3 of them get in trouble, while another one, Maurício Gugelmin, gets his one and only IndyCar Series win of his career. He was a veteran of the series and competed in 9 seasons through 1993 to 2001, with this one definitely being the one that he will remember the most. And then in terms of Christian Fittipaldi, I have no idea what he was thinking there, jumping out of the car. I get it, there's cars coming at you, but I have a feeling in that turn you'd be safer staying in the car than risk getting out of the car and then getting smacked by your own car. That was super risky, and thankfully all the drivers were on their toes there and made no mistakes getting into his car, and man, it could have been very bad. That's going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. If you love the IndyCar content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we're all about the nostalgia here and revisiting these classic awesome moments in racing. If you like this one, make sure you hit the thumbs up, and I upload videos every Tuesday. Hope to see you again. Take care, everybody.